Most people think the only way to pass prop firm challenges is through great risk management. But in fact, risk management is one of the key reasons why you're never ever going to get funded. Some other reasons are the fact that you don't understand what the challenge phase is actually meant for. And I get it, it is not your fault. And that is why in today's video, I'm going to explain to you in great detail the reason why you shouldn't get prop firm challenges and what you should do instead. So let's start with the biggest guy in the room, which is the biggest misunderstanding about prop firm challenges. Now, one of the things you need to understand when you're trading with prop firms is that the challenge phase is not where you are supposed to prove that you're a good trader or not. And neither is the challenge phase meant for those who are actually still learning how to trade. The prop firm space is not where you are supposed to learn how to trade, because it is basically a qualification game designed with time pressure, profit targets, and psychological traps. A funded account is actually where risk management starts, because the challenge phase is about passing and nothing else. And it is not even just about passing the challenge, it's about passing the challenge as fast as you can. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, which is actually something that I call the 0.5% problem. Now, I used to see this ad by, I think it's Top One Trader, where the CEO basically talks about the one lie that causes most traders to lose their funded account. Just listen to what he said. Causes traders to lose what? Their funded account. He didn't say that's the lie that causes traders to not get funded. Okay. Now, the truth here is, if you think about this, risking 0.5% on a trade simply means that's during the challenge phase. If you're trying to risk 0.5% per trade, that simply means you probably need around 20 trades to pass your prop firm challenge. And that is excluding the fact that you're going to go through any levels of drawdown. It simply means you need about 100% win rate. Now, if you basically, let's say you have a 40, 50, 60% win rate, it simply means passing phase one of the challenge phase can take you about 6 months if you risk just 0.5%. Because actually, most people don't fail the challenge phase because they're bad traders. They fail because the math behind risking 0.5% per trade doesn't match the pressure. Because think about it this way, you're risking 0.5% per trade, and you're going through some wins, maybe you're up 2%, you get a bad streak, like a losing streak, you're down -2%, and you do that for a few weeks and you start to become impatient. And before you know it, you start to chase trades that aren't really good, because risking 0.5% doesn't match the pressure that comes with passing the challenge phase. And then you might be asking, then what is the ideal risk when taking the challenge? Now, if I'm to be honest with you, in phase one of your challenge, you want to be risking between 1.5% to 2.5% of your trading account, because I've noticed with prop firms like Funded Next, in fact, most of the prop firms do not want you to risk up to 3% of your account. So what you want to do is risk between 1.5% to 2.5% of your account. So imagine if your target is like 8% of your account and you're trading like a, let's say, 100k account. Your target is basically $8,000 and you risk between $1,000 to $2,000 per trade. All you need is 1 to 2 trades. So let's say you risk $2,000 per trade and you get a good risk to reward, let's say 1:3, you've made $6,000. Then you're basically left with just $2,000 to pass the challenge. So that is basically how much you want to risk in phase one. Now, in phase two of the challenge phase, you want to risk between 1 to 2% of your account. Now, remember, in phase one, you're risking between minimum 1.5%, maximum 2.5%. So if you get to phase two, I think it's about 70% of that. You're supposed to reach about 5% target or so. So you're basically allowed to, I would suggest basically for you to risk between 1 to 2% of your account, nothing more. Because if you're let's say trading a 100k account and you're risking, let's say you're in phase two now, and you're risking 1 to 2% of your account, let's say you risk $1,000, you get a good run, 1:3, you make $3,000. You're basically left with $2,000 to, meet your target. No pressure, no nothing. But imagine if you are trading risking 0.5% in phase one and you have to make 8%. Because what I think so many of you don't understand is that the prop firm space, when you're trading a 100k account, it is not as if you are giving a $100,000 account. the account you're trading is basically your max drawdown. And most of the time, some prop firms will even give you a 10% target with an 8% max drawdown. So imagine if you were given $8,000 and told to make $10,000. Just think about that. How would you double the account so quickly if you're risking 0.5% of $8,000? Doesn't actually make sense. And it's because if you think about it again, a lot of you want to get funded. You can literally get funded within a month by risking 1.5 to 2% of your account. 2 good trades per week and you pass the challenge. The only time risk management matters is when you finally get funded, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. The next thing I want to talk about is probably the most important thing with the prop firm space now, which is the dark side of trading generally, or the prop firm space. Because the truth here is, in order for you to pass the challenge really fast and get funded as fast as you can, you basically going to have to increase your risk, right? And that basically means one thing. When you increase your risk, okay, now here's the thing with trading. In trading, you either get one home run and make a good profit, or you give yourself so many attempts at the market. Now, if you think about it, right, the way I see trading, I'm not a proponent of taking a lot of trades. I believe the more trades you take, the more mistakes you're likely going to make. So if I'm thinking, I look at my prop firm account and I say to myself, I have only 4 shots at the market. Let's say I'm risking 2.5% of my account, or let's say 2% of my account, meaning I have only 4 good shots at the market. I have to take 4 of the best shots. But sometimes when you're risking 0.5%, you start to tell yourself like you have so many opportunities in the market. You start chasing a lot of trades that don't even exist. And let me tell you one crazy thing about prop firms. If you're a swing trader, right, except if the prop firm has a swing trading model, you have to be a good scalper for you to quickly get funded. That is what I noticed, because throughout my time trading with Funded Next, the swaps are crazy, bro. The swap is crazy. Like, I've paid $2,000 in swaps before. I've paid $1,000, $500 in swaps, basically because of in fact, that was one of the things that has made me reach my max daily drawdown. Swaps, basically, because it's a lot of money. Because think about it, when you place a trade, they charge you commissions first of all, apart from the spread that you have to pay. So if you think about it, a lot of things are just against you. You're not going to get funded if you're taking so many trades, okay? Now, for you to pass fast, you need to increase your risk, and that means you're going to burn through many accounts whilst you're trying to, get fewer shots and getting funded faster, which is what actually takes me to the next most important part. You need a job. Now, so many people have a problem with working 9 to 5. So many people tell you, I was watching some videos online the other day, and the guy was asking people to take the risk. People will tell you to quit the job, drop out of college and stuff. Look, it's high time people start thinking for themselves and not start listening to some of this bullshit advice. The person asking you to quit your job or drop out of school, maybe that person comes from a rich home. Maybe that person has friends or family members that can actually come through for them. There's some of you probably watching this video that if you need to borrow $100 today, you literally have no one to borrow you $100. So why would you quit your job when you're the only person that you'll actually got? So you have to keep your job. And trading is not really something that requires the whole day. Like the other day I was telling someone I was a trader, and she was saying that, trading is very hard. All these traders, they have to sit in front of the chart for the whole day watching the chart. And in my mind, I'm like, where did you get that perception about trading? And it's basically what a lot of people think, right? They think as traders, we sit in front of the charts day, night, doing nothing. We don't have a life. But if you know your edge, you trade one session. All you need is one session and one pair. You trade between 1:30 GMT, which is like 8 a.m. or 8:30 New York time, to about 6 p.m. That's all you need. You just need 2 to 3 hours and a single push during the day. So, and it's something you can do during your break. So you don't need to take a lot of trades, trade all the sessions and stuff like that. So you basically need your job, because if you don't have this is how it looks like. For you to get funded quick, you're going to run through a bunch of accounts. And if you don't have money to buy an account, every trade you take is going to feel like a death trap. You understand? And you get more attached to it. Because think about it this way. If it takes me a whole year to raise $100 and I spend $60 on a prop firm challenge, I won't be detached from the outcome, because I'll think about the stress it took me to raise that money if I lose the account, the stress I'm going through to raise the money again. So if you think about it, right, trading is one thing where, first of all, you have to pour into before it starts pouring into you. It's like real estate. You have to invest for the long term. You have to invest money in passing profit challenges. And there is one misconception that I want to clear. Some people think the more accounts you blow, the more lessons you're actually learning. And I think sometimes blowing so many accounts is a problem, because you're simply training yourself to just keep blowing accounts. It doesn't mean you're learning anything. In fact, blowing profit challenges is a bad habit. You're simply modeling yourself to keep blowing accounts. And that is why I advise people, instead of actually going into the prop firm space now, because what I just explained to you right now is something that needs you to have great skill to perform. Okay, you need great skill to perform. You need to clearly understand your strategy, your win rate, and the sessions and the pairs your strategy performs better with. So that's why I don't advise you to buy a prop firm account first. If you think about how many $100 accounts, how many $10,000 accounts you have run through, 10, 20, if you save all that money, it should be up to $300 to $500. Why don't you fund that $500 first and trade the $500 for 3 months, so that you get a good idea of how much win rate you have, your strike rate, your maximum adverse excursion. Like, just get a feel of what your strategy is like, so that you basically get to see like what your drawdown period is like. Okay, if you're going through a winning streak, how long is it before you get back on your feet? You need to learn all these things before you think about getting funded. So you need to, first of all, prove to yourself that you can trade. You fund that account, trade it for an exponential amount of time. I'm not big on demo accounts, basically, right? I would say you fund an amount that is not so little that you don't care about, and not so much that you care too much about, that when you lose sleep. Just fund a reasonable amount of money, and then you take the prop firm challenge. Honestly, if you can't grow a small account, then funding will only magnify your weaknesses, right? And if I was to basically start trading over again, right, I'd basically like to do things very differently. And this isn't just about strategy and stuff. It's just about building systems, which I've actually done for you in this next video that I actually want you to watch.